on these carries, or is he always going to have to rely on these global utility-focused champions like the Galio, or, like I mentioned, safety for the rest of his lane, just like we saw that Pocket Morgana, as we go ahead and load up into draft. J-Team would be on your blue side, Berjaya Dragons on the red, and starting things off with the Aphelios ban away from K2 and the Karthus ban away from Hana.
Yeah, Hana has picked the Karthus pick twice at least, but it is on a 1-1 record. And meanwhile, we're going to be seeing more flex picks out the drain as Set being flexed into 4 different roles, and Karma as well into 3 different roles this time around.
Yeah, opting to just get away from some of these flex picks that have absolutely hampered the team. And if you look back to the previous game that we saw between these two teams, arguably, Berjaya Dragons was able to bring this game into the late game. It went for 45.5 minutes, so I think Taipei J-Team, they have to take this draft rather seriously, and it looks like they are getting rid of a lot of the pocket picks that Berjaya like to rely on. We already mentioned that Karma and the Aphelios for K2, and now as well taking away the Mordekaiser from Ozzy. Meanwhile, though, Syndra is going to be banned out against Nesty. I think that's a wasted ban, but for Taipei J-Team, what are they going to put priority on? You already saw that Kennen Hover. Don't know if it's the best blind pick, but the flex of the Volley Bear, not a bad start.
Yeah, that's true. I was a little bit worried because we don't really see first pick Kennens. It's usually always being picked last just to see and adjust. But there you have it, Galio being stolen away from Nesty. Again, Nesty has picked this up 5 times and as well has a 100% win rate, and Enzo as well having to pick up another power farming jungler. And you know, things aren't really changing as Nesty falling back again to one of the global impactful champions on the Twisted Fate.
I do believe, though, this is going to be his first Twisted Fate of the split, and that's kind of what we've been waiting for, to see him go on something a little bit more carry-like, not necessarily only just going utility or CC tank like Galio. Interesting here, though, Rest likely going to be running the Camille up in the top lane.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Volley Bear pick, not a mystery anymore where this bear is going to go, with that Camille pick being locked in, and as well as 3 of the laners already done. Meanwhile, J-Team still looking towards their AD carry and as well as their support. And for the Dragons, trying to match things as well with that Renekton. Therefore, the top lane matchup is already revealed.
So interesting to see here. We're going to have that Renekton actually come in from Ozzy, opting to, again, have something that can probably go toe-to-toe against the Camille, at least for a little bit there, and hopefully not fall too far behind. But next round of draft, that does mean our AD carries actually were able to slip through on both sides of the map, and already see like the Jhin getting banned out, which I feel like is kind of like a niche throwaway ban because Lil V has only used it once, and the one time he played it was into an Ashe, which not commonly known as that hard counter. Do see that Ezreal, though, getting taken away from K2.
And this just means that Berjaya Dragons is just putting a lot of resources on towards the upper portion of the map. And the thing is, K2 has been very comfortable, has been more of that playmaking player if he does get a hold of his comfort pick, which is the Ezreal. Now, because a lot of the AD carry pools is being constricted, I wonder where they're going to be falling through.
All right, so no Kalista there for the side of Lil V. Still means, though, the Ashe is up and available, and I kind of feel like that might be the pick here for K2 in the bot lane. Try and get that one before you really fall down the priority list of the available champion pool, as it does get locked in.
And that means, you know, Taipei J-Team can just usually do maybe the Sivir pick that Lil V was the first one to pick in the entirety of summer. It's really great as well when it comes to enabling that heavy dive because you have that on the hunt. But now that they're hovering, this Senna pick, I suppose they are really going towards the later portions of the game.
This would be a bit different, though, coming out from Taipei J-Team. I'm trying to remember the last time we actually saw them run something like a Senna in the bot lane for Lil V. I don't think it wasn't until all the way back in spring. I think this is their first time showing it here during the summer split. And, well, late game, Berjaya Dragons were able to bring it last time. So I'm interested to see how well it's going to pan out, as Leona also getting locked in.
Yeah, Berjaya Dragons so far, you know, they have a very strong mid game as well, if you count in the Renekton, if you count in the Galio, and if Enzo is able to get ahead. K2 in the meantime will be that fallback and as well as that additional engage with that Crystal Arrow. Now the big question is, what support will they pick up, as you know, Nautilus is still around. If you want safety from the dives, then you go Tahm Kench, I suppose.
Yeah, but we've had so many complaints when it comes to the Kench, especially in some of the other regions, especially over in North America, where it kind of feels like, all right, cool, you saved your AD carry, and then boom, you get blown up. A good Kench will be able to work a lot around the map, but I do believe this is going to be one of the first times we are seeing Delulu run the champion, when other times we've seen him go with something like a Nautilus to act as that hard engage. And you know, it's a little bit interesting from Berjaya's comp. This looks like a composition that J-Team would run, but J-Team are the ones that are trying to spice things up now that they've already locked in their playoff slot.
Yeah, I love the switch in identity. Definitely going to be very handy when facing off, you know, some of the top teams. And I love the aggression. I love how it's spelling full aggression with the Twisted Fate, with the Camille, and as well as the Volibear. I suppose the Tahm Kench will prove a little bit of a difficulty to try and dive and punish K2 as the Ashe being a low mobility carry, but at the same time you do still have that Galio as well to join the fight and make it and match the aggression in the bot side of the map.
Well, we're going to go ahead, get things locked and loaded. Of course, this is our first game of day 3 of our Super Week here in the PCS. Only a couple days remaining of our regular season. Berjaya Dragons, a win here could easily give them safety between them and Liab. Taipei J-Team, a victory, continues their dominance within the PCS as we load on into the Rift. And maybe, you know, our camera crane operator might be sleeping on the job. Not too sure what happened to our dolly cam.
Oh,
or
no.
drone cam. Maybe we crashed the drone.
Cam.
I don't know. What I'm trying to think what you like to call it. Everyone likes to call it a dolly cam, which technically that is what it is called.
What it is?
In like the tool, at least it is in some form.
Yeah.
But it's like more of a drone because like the dolly can't really do the moves that like our camera does.
Because it's flying through the rift?
Yeah, but it flies around the rift, and also like it does like a it like rotates 180 degrees, and if that was like on a dolly, you would see it. You would like
what
see
if it's a dolly with wings?
That's just a drone.
I know, right? Okay.
Oh boy.
Oh my.
Berjaya Dragons, though. Let's kind of talk about this team. Of course, this is the Malaysian-backed organization that came out from Berjaya Corp. That extremely exciting to see come out of that region itself. Unfortunately, I know a lot of the fans have been a little disappointed with the absence of Chile, of course, being the lone Malaysian player. But Delulu, if you watched any of the content that they've been able to do with him, he adds a bunch of life to any team he's on.
Yeah, he's great. He's a fun person to be with, especially when you see how much he knows about the team more than anyone else from the rest of the Berjaya roster that were present in spring. It's great.
It's great. You love having, I don't know, would you call that like, it's just someone who just like did all the research, like, oh, I'm joining my new team. I want to know exactly what happened. Even though like half the answers he did say, I kind of just guessed, which may pan out for him. But like we mentioned with Berjaya, you've added now this new support, and it does really feel like this team has, oddly enough, slowed down in pace, even though Delulu is very much a support player that loves the hard engage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different switch of style for sure, but at the end of the day, it's a nice adjustment, I suppose, since, again, for the Dragons, they have a little bit of struggle when it comes to their identity, and therefore having different options in style will definitely benefit them well.
We'll keep track here as then you take across the rift. Of course, you have Taipei J-Team, of course, coming out from the former LMS. Was the #1 seed heading into the World Championship last year for that region. Spring wasn't all that hot. It was a bit of a disappointment, I think, to say the very least. Only barely qualifying, and then I believe getting knocked out after the first round of playoffs. And a lot of people, myself included, was not expecting this team to be able to turn things around as much as they did. As rest here might need to be careful.
Oh, yeah, Enzo's turning around.
Enzo was deciding, but Rest now re-engages, gets a little bit of damage onto Ozzy. It was all a bait, it seems here. Is almost able to take down the Renekton. Enzo able to flash over to safety. Hana, though, hiding around the corner, and that is a very convenient ward for Enzo as he's going to go ahead and back off.
Yeah, I love the restraint. I love the fact that that ward, despite Hana having to hug the wall, it is indeed, just as you mentioned, very convenient, as it seems that the flash will just be used as Ozzy and Enzo just managed to keep theirs.
So no early kill, but it does mean you're going to have the flash down on Rest, so we might see Enzo decide to try and make another appearance, which, again, we get to see Enzo on something that isn't Trundle. I know it makes us happy. I know it's made a lot of our analysts happy. Going back on over to this Graves, which, again, he's had an okay time with. But it adds a little bit more flavor to Berjaya, which we always felt like Enzo was always just kind of there during most of the games.
Yeah, he loves his Trundle, has picked it up 8 times already so far in summer. But yes, Graves is definitely one of those picks for Enzo that where he shines the brightest. And most of the time at the later stages of the game, when Berjaya Dragons is able to scale, normally you do manage to pair that up as well with K2. In the meantime, though, we were talking about Delulu not being on that heavy engage, and therefore, that Crystal Arrow, if it misses, it's going to be a huge problem, and the secondary engage would be Mawan, as we can see right now.
Yeah, Mawan, though, getting aggressive here off that teleport, and SC is forced to flash over to safety, as Enzo came on by, and that's kind of our first little bit of action we have seen out of this mid lane. Without the flash available, and SC does lose a little bit of his safety, but will soon have that Destiny at level 6, and that's when we kind of want to see him at least try and make some action take place, probably toward the top side of the map.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the aggression, having that checklist from Enzo, having to focus on farming, but at the same time create impact on the side lanes, remove a little bit of that safety just to try and visit them later on, and possibly time it for this dragon take.
Well, Dragon is going to get started here by Berjaya. Goes down to about half health. Woody, though, on the engage. In comes that Galio, though, and that forces Woody to have to flash back to safety. Almost felt like he forgot that they were going up against the Galio. A two-man stun going to come out from Lil V off that route. And now Mawan just going to get CC'd down to death. And there you go. First blood going on over to Woody. Hana wants to add another one to the total as in came down the Sky Splitter. And that's going to be 2 kills to Taipei J Team.
My oh my, even though, you know, Taipei J Team didn't have flashes on their mid lane and their top lane, well, top lane is just, you know, resting well with Ozzy in the top side of the map. But the biggest problem is here that Enzo tanked a lot of dragon hits, Woody was nearby to initiate, and the fact that you don't have level 6 yet from the Ashe, which means you don't have a lot of engage options aside from Mawan with a taunt. If that fails, then you're doomed.
And of course, that center route, too, is kind of disastrous when you don't have really any way of getting out, especially when you're surrounded by multiple members of your team. You saw there, could have been a lot worse. So just like that, Taipei J Team, they finally get their kills onto the board and open up a 2,000 gold lead alongside the first dragon of the game.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to Taipei J Team, pre-level 6, all their CC is intact, not having to rely solely on their level 6 to be able to skirmish properly, especially in early dragon takes and possibly maybe even the Rift Herald. But at this point, for Berjaya Dragons, all they can do is try to adjust and be a little bit more reactive. Unfortunately, the timing of the Galio ult, Taipei J Team is able to retract from that, and therefore, first dragon of the game goes to Taipei J Team.
It's maybe not the start you're looking for, as Berjaya Dragons are kind of the team here that you kind of want to try and get things rolling early via this Graves, as well as maybe trying to shut down the Camille. The fact now that, you know, there hasn't been really any threat down toward this bot lane, the fact K2 is actually starting to lose out on farm is actually a really bad sign here coming out from Berjaya Dragons.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact that you have Delulu as the Tom Kench, which means that it's going to be babysitting duty. Therefore, Enzo would possibly focus a little bit more in the mid lane, especially at top side, as we can predict if Rest is given the space, he's just gonna hammer down the pain later on, especially once J Team rolls out on their 1-3-1 with a Twisted Fate and Rest. No one is able to deal with Rest in particular, as Ozzy so far has been a little bit stabilized, at least in the lane.
able to at least recover a little bit from that early aggression, but nothing out of the characteristic. As here you go. Hana nearby. Flash is available for this Renekton. Be a bit risky to try and go for a dive just yet. Enzo is nearby. Some pings coming out. They have an idea that this is happening as Nesty is spotted out, rotating over, and now Ozzy making a decision. Enzo is nearby as they see them pile over to the side of the wall. Now maybe the target could be over toward Enzo, but that might be enough to dissuade them from going for this dive onto Ozzy.
Yeah, Malwan has his ult already, so the timing wasn't as perfect if Nesty were able to pull the trigger. If the wave was already pushed towards Ozzy's tower, then it would have been the perfect opportunity, but it would have been it would end up in a 3v3 situation. So Taipei J team retracted that decision instead.
So real no action at least, but maybe trying to set that up. You do see Malwan, as long as he's able to stay within that mid lane, should be able to try and at least answer some of the aggression if they're able to spot out an SC. But you do see Rift Herald is going to be started up here by Taipei J team. We'll see whether or not Enzo wants to respond, as Delulu and K2 also looking for the rotate over.
A little bit scary though. You've got Lil V and as well as Woody, level 6 already. Key
You have
ult.
Ozzy getting a little bit caught out himself. In comes that hero's entrance with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Not able to take down A1. Woody going down really low, but he's still able to survive here for a long time. And K2 gets taken on out. Lil V over toward the side, picks up another kill, and there you go. 3 more members of Berjaya Dragons get taken down, and Rift Herald over to Taipei J team.
Unfortunate positioning. You locked in that Tom Kench for that safety for K2, but unfortunately the Kench was just far away from K2, or K2 was far away from his support, and therefore is immediately obliterated from that team fight.
It gets kind of concerning now when you have another couple kills going on over to Taipei J team, where Berjaya are the ones that we expect, hey, want to try and make things happen, and the fact they can't even kill Woody here, it just feels so bad.
I mean, I was a little bit happy seeing Ozzy is able to survive all that. They are able to re-engage, but if your carries is not in the best position to kite around, Taipei J team is the formed a composition where it's so easy to punish you with that.
And with that now, you got 5 kill participation on over to Hana. 100% so far. He's been able to make his presence known on this volley bear. And I get a little bit concerned here because now it's just going to allow Taipei J team. You're going to have this Camille, already 3 assists in her back pocket, getting some extra gold. Not getting snowballed out of control just yet, but now you also look at Nesty on this Twisted Fate. Has Aroa, now starting to stack that up and starting to come online himself, as well as Muramana going to be stacked here by Lil V. And items are starting to get in the inventory of Taipei J team when I expected Berjaya Dragons to be the ones to try and make the aggressive move.
Especially if you have a very, I suppose, strong mid and jungle, and especially if they are able to at least burn a flash from Nesty from earlier, it's just snowballed out of control from that dragon fight and then into that Rift Herald. And with that said, Rift Herald being dropped here for more platings for Lil V, and not a lot of value off of that, as there's 3 members at least who are able to scare off Taipei J team to be extra aggressive in that lane.
So meanwhile, though, you did see Ozzy was able to get a little bit of turret plating himself. That Rift Herald only going to get 2 over down toward Lil V on that Senna. Not end of the world for Berjaya, but now you do have to factor in, okay, second dragon now available. And if they're not able to really answer this, this is going to be an easy setup for possibly either an Ocean or a Mountain Soul for Taipei J team around that 23-24 minute mark.
And you see and you saw how Ozzy and Malwan were trying to set up a teleport play, having to go back to base in time. Rest interrupted it. The wild cards from Nesty interrupted that. And that's unfortunate, where Berjaya Dragons has to give up another dragon and objective away from themselves.
And Enzo continues to farm away here on the Graves, unfortunately. I know there's not a whole lot he's able to do, but it's looking eerily similar to how he plays his Trundle, and that's kind of bad news bears right now for Berjaya Dragons.
And when we look at the rest of the lane, we can see that all 3 lanes are very reliant on starting the engage. At least Ozzy has that stun. You've got Malwan with the taunt. You've got the crystal arrow for K2 in the bottom side of the map. So if you look at it, both of these lanes, at least for mid and top for Taipei J team, are a little bit vulnerable, especially if you remove that flash away from Nesty. But unfortunately, Enzo has been trying to catch up, as time and time again, Taipei J team has been gathering gold by winning via kills.
By kills, as well as just some natural objective takes, of course, with the plating. You also got to factor in a 20 CS lead there for Hana as well. And it kind of goes, all right, Berjaya, next Dragon is kind of your time to shine. Because you also got to factor in now, level 11 over toward Nesty has that second point into his ultimate. Going to get a little bit more mobile himself as he starts to also build into that Lich Bane. And that's when Nesty is soon going to be coming online. And that's just another threat going to be available for JT.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a scary, scary spike with that Lich Bane. Hana making another visit at top side, but fortunately for the Dragons, they do have vision covering that tri-brush at least. Rest with a little bit of taunt from Ozzy over there.
BM, he probably goes, okay, it's warded, we know that. He keeps Ozzy at bay at the very least. He's still a little bit until he has his Black Cleaver. I think it's going to be on the next back here. As we get into a bit of that lull once more, with Berjaya Dragons, again, playing much more similar to the style we have seen in this summer split so far, which just feels underwhelming.
Yeah, a little bit more on the reactive side of things. I suppose the good news for the Dragons, at least, they have, if they are able to stabilize, not give away too much kills after that, they have a pretty strong mid game. If we look at Taipei J team, they have a lot of close range champions on their side, therefore the taunt definitely easy to land as long as K2 is able to get a good position. Ozzy set up for that flank plays as well to bother the backline. I think it's going to be a-okay for the Dragons as long as they don't lose too much at this point.
That unfortunately is a thing that we sometimes have to say, I think, a little too much, though, is not lose too much. I want to see Berjaya be the ones be proactive. Considering the fact now that if you give over this next Dragon, you're going to be setting up Taipei J team for a Mountain Soul within the first 25 minutes of the map. And having the extra shielding as well against an engage style composition that's being run here by Berjaya Dragons, that feels dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, for the Dragons, it's very heavy engage if you look at least the mid top portion of the map and a little bit of safety laning wise. Crystal Arrow will definitely help later on, especially if they do want to dive actually at the bottom side of the map. If they manage to catch Woody out and roaming in the other side of the map. Problem is, if they do give up bottom side, that means they give up this Rift Herald pressure, and they didn't get any sort of exchange because Lil V is creating distance away
and
from
Destiny
the tower.
being popped here also prevents Berjaya from going for a dive down here. So with that, they get a free Rift Herald. No real answer coming out from Berjaya when they needed to try and, you know, shut down this Senna, as now you're going to unlock rest from his lane with that Rift Herald being popped, and Ozzy can't do a thing about it.
And it's quite unfortunate because, again, just as you mentioned, there is no exchange whatsoever. Taipei J team get the best deal end of the stick, with the Dragons unable to get anything at all. And looks like this Rift Herald will get extra value with that second charge in, as we'll have to see, as Han is still sticking around at the top side of the map at least.
No second charge there, but still going to be the damage already done, because that's the first tower actually being taken at the game at 17 minutes. Maybe a little bit of a late back coming out from Hana as well as Rest, but you already see that Maoan and them aren't all that aggressive. Delulu's pop and ghost because you had to swap it out, of course. Might as well try and get that flash available for yourself, as Berjaya are the ones that at least get the inside track toward the Dragon. But if K2 gets caught out like this, that is not what you want to take happen. And there you go. Galio ultimate also going to get interrupted. Can't join in on the fight. And that's what feels bad here, is now Berjaya, they're going to be down a crucial member, down a crucial ultimate, and maybe another one too, as then comes the ultimatum from Jerez. Sure, you got that stopwatch, but Maoan is not long for this world as he gets taken down. Taipei J team with full control over toward the third Dragon.
Dragons had the best position so far, as just as you mentioned, Hana was a little bit late with that reset, but unfortunately K2 lowered his guard, passed in the most dangerous way possible to the dragon, met Lil V, met Woody, and it was just disaster. CC stun lock for K2, unable to do anything, and the third dragon goes to Taipei J team.
And unfortunately, because of how far Berjaya Dragons are, they only just got their first big item spike. The next dragon that spawns up for Seoul, guess what? Taipei J team, they'll have their extra items themselves, and unfortunately, we're just not seeing what we wanted from Berjaya Dragons.
Very, very unfortunate. Yeah, they managed to get at least their first item spikes already, but again, this composition, because of that Galio, you will be reliant more on heavy damage from your jungler and as well as from your AD carry. Therefore, a little bit unfortunate for the Dragons. And they're running out of time because it's going to be soul point soon for Taipei J team in the next 4 minutes or so. And, you know, Renekton didn't even manage to get ahead just yet. At least, maybe not. Oh, well.
There he goes. Destiny from Nesty. We haven't seen a whole lot of that, but it has been enough to at least impact the map. And another gold card going to be set up. Flash is available. Over the wall he goes, and that's an easy kill onto Ozzy as we take a look back here toward the bot lane action.
Did something happen again to K2?
I think actually they were able to collapse here. So it was actually Berjaya that are able to find it. That's 2 teleports being burned, though. And you maybe want to save that for an upcoming objective fight, but nonetheless, at least they're able to get themselves on the kill board.
Yeah, they're able to at least get a couple of shutdowns, I believe, or at least manage to put kills on towards K2 will definitely help, as the laning phase didn't work out so well for the Dragons, especially the bot side of the map. And yeah, you're right, 2 teleports consumed. Unfortunately though, for Taipei J team, they're able to exchange 1 kill as Ozzy was still pushing in the bottom side of the map. Therefore, a little bit of that trade happening there. But nonetheless, for Berjaya Dragons, they will take these small victories for now.
Also got a note, though, now. We mentioned those items that were going to start coming on line. Nesty has finished off his Lich Bane. You also have Righteous for Hana as well. And going to be likely going into the, not Titanic, the Ravenous Hydra for Rest as well. And those item spikes are going to be hitting right before this next dragon spawn, which, like we mentioned, you take a Mountain Soul away from Berjaya Dragons against this composition that wants to go, go, go. Well, if you're not able to burst down the key target in time, it's an easy turnaround for Taipei J team.
And the thing about Taipei J team, they have so much threats on the board that deal damage. You've got Rest, you've got Nesty, and as well as Sylvie, especially as the game progresses. And therefore, for the Dragons, if they're unable to kill at least one immediately, it's going to be a little bit tricky for them, especially once the 5v5 comes. And look how dark the map is for the Dragons. They are unable to move around because they don't have much information.
Oh, Hana has to use his ultimate. A little bit too close to K2 as the arrow does not land. But still, nothing really going to be gained there on the side of Berjaya Dragons, as Lil V already back here into the action, and Hana wants to get aggressive as Sky Splitter going to come on down. Delulu nearby as he decided to cancel his back, but guess what? K2 is going to not stick around for much longer anyway.
Yeah, having to reset because no mana on board for K2. And as well as they have to really prep vision-wise for the next dragon. As we saw earlier, it was a very dark map for the Dragons.
He keeps popping his Q and saying, I'm going to go ahead and stun somebody. You also got to note the fact here that this is Taipei J team starting to feel maybe a little bit too comfortable, considering the fact they do have a 7,000 gold lead. And Hana's just trying to run it in pretty much at this point. Which, to be fair, they do have Nesty now hitting his 10th stack on his Roa. And players for Taipei J team are pretty much starting to come online. The Senna now at 2.5 items. The window for Berjaya Dragons with this engage style composition that can go, 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 it's starting to pass.
And it's been a little bit tough so far for the lane. And just as you mentioned, yes, a lot of the items, the secondary items are coming online. Even having the executioners as well for Lil V, especially when, when we see a Renekton, there's always that high, damage output and as well as sustained back. Therefore, that is also being denied away from the Dragons.
And I have to criticize Enzo here now, because you're on this Graves that is supposed to not be falling behind in levels. Well, now he's down 2 levels to a Volibear. And the Volibear's also been ganking all over the bloody place, too. I want to also note that. Enzo, in most cases, when he's on Trundle, he kind of just slumps back once he falls down, and we didn't want to see that with this Graves pickup for Berjaya, and now it seems to be the case. It looks like they are getting rather aggressive here. They're saying, all right, we want to try and force, we want to prevent this Mountain Soul from going on over. Hana looking for an easy steal. Destiny's going to be popped, and you see Berjaya Dragons already have to back off, and now separated over toward the side. Maoan still has flash available for the taunt. 50-50 onto the smite. Delulu with a good devour. In comes the hero's entrance, but it only knocks up Woody. Now back over the wall, it's going to be Hana. Another engage comes back out from K2. Some decent damage though, and there it is, the pop. There goes your Galio. There goes your front line on the side of Berjaya Dragons. Delulu going to get taken down by the last auto attack, and that should be Mountain Soul for Taipei J Team.
A very clean fight for Taipei J Team. We got Nesty having to get that flank gold card in, and Taipei J Team gets rewarded with their Mountain Soul intact, and unfortunately 2 members down from the Dragons.
And it goes back to this issue of it's a little bit too late for Berjaya. We expected them to go aggressively, but they're not even warding down into the parts of the jungle where Nesty can find these flanks, and the fights themselves are just messy.
Yeah, the fights are definitely messy. K2 may be safe from everything else, but you are hitting the front line of, you know, Taipei J Team at this point. And without your front line, you will be exposed, and bye, Ozzy. Yep.
And there you go. Rampage for Nesty on the Twisted Fate. Mountain Soul secured. Elder Dragon up in 5. Feels like Taipei J Team with one good fight could easily just try and end this one down. Possibly with the Baron, and now Berjaya Dragons, what do you got? What's your hero play you can make to try and bring yourselves back into this game for even a slight chance of bringing it home?
The thing about the Dragons is that they have a nice composition to at least try to punish with that Crystal Arrow. We've seen Hana being a little bit too forward in the enemy jungle from the Dragons' jungle, but so far there's no punish whatsoever because none of the members are around and are anticipating this, because they need to farm, they need to shove the waves to prepare for a contest on towards that Baron. And without having them complete, then you can exactly punish and collapse. And it all boils down to what has happened in the laning phase and up until this point, where they're very behind and just trying to eat the breadcrumbs.
So you see a bunch of pings coming out here from Taipei J Team as they go ahead and move down that ward line into the jungle of Berjaya Dragons. Towers down in top. First tier was already taken here in mid as well. Not a whole lot of safety available for Berjaya Dragons, and easily, there you go, going to start this one up, even with that scuttle being available for Taipei J Team. Not, actually. It's going to be on the favor of Berjaya. You need a hero play. You need some way of stealing this, but it doesn't even look like there's going to be an attempt. It's way too late. Destiny going to be popped. 3,000 health. Enzo trying to get close enough for the steal, but he instantly just gets denied entrance. That is the hero's entrance, though, coming out from Maoan, trying to do what he can. Delulu also tried to make the hero play, but in the end, it's just more bodies to the kill total. That is for Taipei J Team, as Maoan's going to get taken on down. Lil V on a killing spree, and Taipei J Team are going to start looking for the base.
I want to know what happened there, because Enzo used the collateral damage to bridge the gap, to use it as a dash, but that's an unfortunate ult that you could have used possibly for additional damage. It was used backwards, and I am not sure if that was an error or was that intentional.
And in you go, K2 immediately gets popped here by Rest. In comes the Stormbringer from Hana. That's going to force the flash away from Ozzy, even underneath. You got the white flag being waved by K2. He's saying GG already, as that is going to be a 13,000 gold lead over to the other side, as we just get a little bit of a leak there from the other feed. Nonetheless, it is still going to be them pushing on forward, as it's up to Berjaya to make a final stand.
Unfortunately, there's a lot you can do at this moment, with Woody being possibly half health. A lot of the JT members are still very healthy. As look at that damage!
Oh geez, they don't even care. That's the thing at this point. Everybody's online when it comes to the side of Taipei J Team. They're even going to play tutorial style, taking down an extra inhib when they don't need to. And that's 5 members of Berjaya looking at this massive minion wave. Rest goes in, gets a double knock up. There's the bodies. It's just absolute slaughter coming on through as you see K2 gets saved by Delulu once again. Even underneath the fountain tower, though, it is going to be Woody at least securing the kill. Ozzy can't do much else, and you know what's happening. It's inevitable. It's going to be Taipei J team taking down Berjaya Dragons to start off day 3.
Can I just say, Taipei J team, we were a little bit worried about their performance in their previous matches recently, but this looks like a very solid team. It was a very clean game, except probably at the end where they're just having a little bit of fun.
Maybe having just a little bit too much fun. I think that is a fair way of putting it, as they are able to take home the victory. And for Berjaya Dragons, we just never saw this team come online when we needed them to. We didn't see that, 2-item power spike where you're supposed to have some engage, you're supposed to have this Galio coming on through. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, pre-level 6 for the Berjaya Dragons, they were a little bit awkward, therefore Enzo would focus more on top side, but we only saw that once, and after that, not anymore. So level 6 comes, a lot of these, especially the Rift Herald fights, these are very important, and it all boils down to K2's positioning. I suppose he was definitely in the middle of it all, therefore in reach of a lot of easy to land CCs, and again, he's very important in towards this composition as the Ashe, and this happened again after this fight, having to get caught out when they were about to get that dragon, and yeah, it was just a very, very dominating performance by Taipei J team.
And there you go, it's going to be Taipei J team taking home the victory in about a sub 30-minute game to start things off here on our last day of Super Week. For Berjaya Dragons, still in range, though, of Liab when it comes to them trying to at least crawl back into a playoff slot for the postseason. So Berjaya Dragons have to keep that in mind. And if they're playing like that, there's still a good opportunity for Liab to make a run back here, depending on how their games go.
Yeah, exactly. Liab is still, having to wait to fight them in week 7 next week. And yeah, that's just 2 more games for the Berjaya Dragons, as they have to still face Talon and Nova when it comes to bridging that gap away from Liab in particular.
And our MVP, it's going to go on over to Hana, picking that up with a 409 KDA over on the Volibear. Like we mentioned, was very involved in the team's early game, mid-game success with a 100% kill participation for the majority of this game.
Yeah, beautiful Volibear by Hana here, having to visit the lanes and also having that farm advantage over Enzo in the jungle, and therefore, yeah, this is at least, another scary jungle in Hana's pool to consider in the next few matches.
Yeah. So now, Taipei J team, they're going to be relatively happy. They are able to at least bounce back in a rather dominating style, which was to be expected. And with that, too, I do believe that now puts them tied up with AHQ. As we're going to go ahead and take another interview with Nesty over from Taipei J team.
Hello， 大家好，我是 J Team 的中路雀巢。
OK， 那也是非常恭喜你们在比赛获得胜利。这有几个问题想要请教你。在昨天的话，你们是不幸落败给了 PSG 嘛？那感觉在 BP 或者是策略上面，好像是有一些地方遭到对方的针对。回去之后有没有进行一些改进，或者是有没有一些讨论呢？
So yesterday you guys lost to PSG. It seems like your BP strategy and your attack strategies have been sought out by your opponent. So did you go home and do some review after that?
就是昨天我们那波上路嘛，就前面要带服上路，其实我那边是可以得到中路的 TP 的，但我那边就是没有做到自己该做的事情，所以才导致1换1，没有滚到更大的优势这样。
So yesterday, because they were trying to dive our top lane, and I didn't use my TP well, that's why I made a mistake, and resulting in the loss of our team. So I think it is my fault. So that's the review that we did yesterday.
那你们在这场比赛其实选出一个在 PCS 比较少见到的阵容，就是匿名跟卡密的中上路分推，搭配这个下路三大打弱边的组合。那你觉得这套阵容的表现怎么样？或者说你们这场比赛的发挥如何？
So you guys chose a Camille and a Twisted Fate in this game with Sana on the bot lane. So this is kind of rare in this meta in PCS. So why do you guys chose that?
这套阵容的强的地方就是你在边线可以给对面那个单线很大的压力，然后又迫不得他们要在5个人在中路这样集结这样，然后你在边线就是一直推嘛，然后找机会。
So this comp gives a lot of pressure on the top and the bot lane, and you have to force them to get team fights in the mid lane, and that's how we can win that game.
OK， 那这第3个问题的话是，你在夏季赛第一次拿出匿名，那你有没有一些小技巧可以教给那些想要玩匿名的，或者你觉得一个好的匿名必须得做到什么事情？最后帮你今天的一个匿名打一个分数吧。
So it is the first time that you use Twisted Fate in the summer season. Can you give us some tips on how to play well with Twisted Fate? And can you give yourself a score on this champion?
所以匿名的话，要选的话，尽量就是会战都要抽金牌啊，不要抽其他的牌，然后帮助队友做西西这样。
So to play well on Twisted Fate, you have to pick the golden card, and when you're in team fights, and also to just support your teammates, and that's what you do with the Twisted Fate and play well.
看起来你在讲废话。那我们最后再补充一个问题啦，我们还有机会看到你的中路努努吗？
你说什么？
中路努努，我们还有机会看到你的中路努努。
Will we be able to see another Nunu in the mid lane?
有机会啊。
哎呦，有
It is
机会。
possible.
好，谢谢雀巢。
那么感谢雀巢，那也感谢台北巨蛋队，那也恭喜你们在今天的一个比赛获得胜利。不过从刚刚的采访可以看得出来
Maybe we get another Nunu in the mid lane. I don't know. It seemed like Taipei J team, they knew they probably weren't going to be able to run that one again. And some Giga Brain advice when it comes to Twisted Fate. Just pick their gold card. That's all you really need to do. Easy peasy. Nothing wrong there. So for himself as well as the rest of the squad, congratulations over to Taipei J team for taking home the victory over Berjaya Dragons. Of course, though, we still have plenty of League of Legends. It was a quick game 1, but we still have 5 more. And next up is going to be Nova Esports taking on Alpha Esports. So don't go anywhere. PCS will return.
CTBC Bank is Taiwan's top financial institution, but we're not stopping there. We're crafting an international brand and already have over 260 outlets in 14 countries. We are by your side, ready to embrace the future.